Today we're in section 1.4, order of operations. We're on page 18 in our textbooks. Before we jump into the lesson today, I want to do just a quick review of 1.3 from yesterday. All right, so just right there at the top of your notes, try not to take up too much space, but I want you to go ahead and answer these 5 questions. We're writing the product as a power in the first 3, so we're not solving anything. And then in the next 2, we're going to evaluate. All right. Okay, so the first one, what is it going to be, guys? 5 to the 5th power. Next one, 4 to the 4th power. Next one, y to the 6th power. 6 to the 4th power. Very good. And then when you evaluate, after you make the substitution, 4 to the 4th power? All right, very good. Anybody get all 4? Okay, very good. So with order of operations, you need to know this acronym, PEMDAS. And a lot of people kind of have a saying to help them remember. And what is that saying? Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Where we do what's in parentheses first. We do what's in parentheses first, but that doesn't mean 2 times 3, okay? Parentheses doesn't necessarily mean one number that's in parentheses. What they mean by parentheses is something that can be simplified. Something that can be simplified. So can I simplify 2 plus 3? Yeah, 2 plus 3 is 5, okay? So this is what they mean by step 1. Work what's in parentheses. We call them our grouping symbols because parentheses and brackets would count in this category. All right, then we work our exponents. Then we multiply and divide from left to right, and we add and subtract from left to right. All right, example 1. In example 1, it gives us the example of a guitar, okay? And what you need to know when you're setting up expressions is that you're going to have a value that's not affected by anything. And in this example, it's the value of the guitar. Does it matter how many lessons you take as far as how much your guitar is going to cost? No, your guitar is going to cost $50 whether you take 5 lessons, 10 lessons, or 20 lessons. It's still going to be $50. What is affected or what price can vary is the cost of the lessons depending on how many you take. So that's why we set up the expression 50 plus 10 times 5. 50 plus 10 times 5. Now we have to follow our rules for order of operations, and what do I do first? Do I multiply 10 times 5 or do I need to add 50 plus 10? What do I do? Okay. Does my order of operations, does it say to add before you multiply? Or does it say to multiply before you add? So we have to multiply 10 times 5 to get 50, and now we go back and we add it to our original 50, and the total cost is $100. All right, so I think naturally we think, oh, just work it left to right because that's how we read. But remember, with order of operations, I might solve, everybody paying attention? I might solve parts of it out of order. Because division might be at the end, I've got to do that first before I go back and add and subtract across. Okay? All right, so now let's look at the second example. It says 40 minus 4 squared divided by 2. According to order of operations, what do I do first? I've got to do my exponent. So what's 4 squared? 16. Okay, bring down my subtraction and my division. And now here's my question. Do I subtract 40 minus 16 then divide? Or do I divide then subtract? Divide then subtract. So that's going to be 40 minus 8, which is 32. All right, so sometimes in your brain, you're kind of doing things out of order, but really you're doing them in order, in the order of that they're supposed to be done according to order of operations. All right, I want you to go ahead and do the next 2. Go ahead and do the next two. All right, so we evaluate our exponent, and then we multiply, and we get 45. And then on the second one, 10 minus 8 is 2. Anybody get those right before I did them? All right, good job, guys. All right, so now in example 2, we're evaluating a variable expression. So we're trying to plug in these numbers and solve. I want to give you a minute just to try to do it on your own, and then we will go over it, okay? So we already learned how to substitute the value for the variable, but now we're just applying that concept to order of operations. All right, so what you need to do is you've got to plug in 25 for x, okay? Everybody's good there. But now here comes the question marks. I've got 3, and then I need to plug in the 2 and square it. But what did I forget? What do I need to include in here, Emmanuel? I've got to have parentheses around my 2, okay? Because this means multiplication, a number and a variable next to each other. So when I plug in my number, that's got to be in parentheses. Now what do I do next? Kenzie, what do I do next? Very good. I've got to do the exponent. So now I have 25 minus 3 times 4, which is 25 minus 12, and that's 13. 13. Now on B, I'm going to substitute in, okay, and now I've got to simplify everything in my numerator first to get 15 over 3, which is 5. All right, so we're working numbers 1 through 4. Follow the order of operations, and then on number 4, make sure you make your substitutions and solve. So remember what we just talked about in the last example about solving in for a variable that's next to a number, okay? You've got to remember to put something around it. All right, so 5 plus 30, I've got to multiply first, 35. Then I need to evaluate my exponent first, then subtract, and I get 12. Evaluate exponent and multiply to get 57. And make sure that you remember when you're doing substitutions to put parentheses around the 5. Did you put parentheses around the 5 to show multiplication? And then your answer is 106, okay? Because then next step is you have to multiply 4 times 25 before you can add it. All right, order of operations. Make sure you do them in order. All right. Moving on now to example 3. In example 3, we're working left to right. All right, and here, this is all that it means. Anytime you only have addition and subtraction, you can just work left to right. You can even put it in your calculator. So you can just do, in your calculator, 12 minus 7 plus 3 minus 6. And what do you get? What do you get? 2. All right, same thing with multiplication and division. 54 divided by 9 is 6. 6 times 3 is 18. And 18 divided by 6 is 3. All right, so we're just working left to right. Any questions on that? It's called our left to right rule. Basically, when you only have those two operations, you just work them left to right. All right, now in example 4, we're using grouping symbols. So here, there is something to simplify within the parentheses, so I need to do that first. On example 4a, I'm going to do 4 times 3. And 4 times 3 is 12. In example B, I need to simplify everything that's on top and bottom. So 13 plus 7 is what, class? What is it, guys? 20 divided by 10 gives me 2. All right, now I want you to try the third one. I want you to try the third one on your own. All right, 4 plus 1 is 5. 5 squared is, and 25 times 3 is 75. All right, I want you to do your turn now. Numbers 5, 6, and 7. Blake, what'd you get for number 5?
I got 2.
2, very good. What about number 6? Number 6? Vanasia? Do you agree? No, the answer is 90. Did you get 90? All right. Okay, because, watch, guys. 3 plus 7 is 10. 6 minus 3 is 3. Then I have to square it. So what do I do next? I need to do the exponent. 3 squared is 9, and 10 times 9 is 90. All right, now on number 7, I need to simplify top and bottom, and my answer is 4. Anybody get all 3? All 3 of them right? Okay, good job. All right, last but not least, example 5. Now, in example 5, I'm using the order of operations to dissect a word problem, okay? So, I'm going to use my 4 basic operations, adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing, one of those 4, maybe more than one, to put together an expression, okay? So here's what it asks me. It says, all right, you're playing a video game, a skateboarding video game, and you complete 1 burn twist, 3 backflips, and 4 360 flips. Here's what they want you to find. How many points did you score total? Okay, so don't just write me an answer. I want you to try to come up with an expression. Okay, so how would you figure this out? Write it out. Okay, using addition and subtraction, multiplication and division, whatever it is, and then write your answer. All right, we'll go over it in a minute. All right, so what do you think? How would you set it up? Anybody want to take a shot at it? Yes.
500 plus 1,200 plus 14,000.
Okay, you're close, except I need you to back up a step. How did you get to 1,200? How did you find that number?
I multiplied 400 times.
Okay, so 3 times 400. So that's what you're showing, guys, okay? You're showing that in your expression. And then, how many 360 flips? How many, guys? 4. So what do you multiply 4 times? 150. 150. Okay, now that you have your original expression, now you can do your multiplication, and you have 500 plus 1,200 plus 600. And that gives you your total of 2,300 points. All right, so using order of operations to set up your word problems. If you understand that, that's everything you need to know for 1.4.